better than shouting, the rule that ends the argument. One quiet gesture, and the deed speaks volumes. It's not about vocal force, it's about strategic precision. Not about raw rage, but about irrefutable records. I've witnessed this countless times. The profound moment, a calm voice, quoting the exact policy, cuts through a room's heated chaos like a cold, precise surgical blade. The instant a vigilant witness, anticipating injustice, presses record on their device, capturing truth before it's distorted. The quiet, resolute determination of a manager, finally taking the time to read the full, often ignored policy, uncovering the precise regulation that alters everything. Or the simple, irrefutable act of an older, experienced hand, placing a legal deed or a notarized document squarely on the negotiation table. These small, deliberate moves, these acts of documented truth, don't just influence outcomes, they fundamentally flip them, proving dignity, proving undeniable power. They transform helplessness into leverage, reclaiming narratives where assumptions once reigned supreme. Arthur sat deep in his worn armchair, its familiar fabric imbued with the comforting scent of old books, drying rose petals, and garden earth, a rich tapestry of decades lived within these very walls. Around him, the insistent, almost predatory hum of his family. His niece, Caroline, gestured with practiced sweeping motions, her hands carving out a future for Arthur that sounded starkly alien, nothing like his own cherished vision. A new place, she declared, with less upkeep, certainly, but also undeniably more monitored. His house, where generations of stories were etched into every polished floorboard, where every creak and shadow held a memory, was casually reduced to an asset to be liquidated. They spoke over him, around him, their voices weaving a tight net, as if he were a silent, merely decorative fixture in his own living room, a relic to be admired, but not heard. His soft murmur of protest, a gentle inquiry about the fate of his beloved rose garden, was instantly absorbed and dismissed. "A sweet sentiment, Uncle Arthur," Caroline interjected, her smile fixed and condescending. "But let's be realistic, shall we?" This, Arthur recognized with a weary sigh, was the common, fatal mistake, attempting to reason with an already closed mindset, one deeply rooted in the insidious, pervasive bias that blindly equates advanced age with an inevitable decline into incompetence, a convenient justification for usurpation. He watched their faces, a tableau of confident, almost smug assumption. They saw him as fragile, easily swayed, perhaps even charmingly confused. They cloaked their intentions in words like care and concern, but to Arthur it felt like an encroaching, suffocating control. They spoke of his best interests, a phrase that, in their mouths, rang hollow, and he knew, with chilling certainty, they meant their own. The proposed plan, delivered with the slick, dispassionate efficiency of a corporate presentation, was for him to be relocated into a lovely assisted living community, their carefully vetted choice, of course, and for the house, his sanctuary, to be immediately put on the market. His voice, typically gentle and resonant, caught in his throat, a raw knot of emotion. He felt the familiar, burning rush of indignation, the visceral urge to shout, to explain, to plead with them, to make them understand the profound depth of his connection to this home. But he had seen this painful script play out too many times, in countless variations throughout his life and the lives of his contemporaries. The shouting always ended in dismissal, the pleading in patronizing condescension. He knew, with a deep, unwavering certainty that settled in his bones, that the most effective tool for justice doesn't shout. It presents undeniable proof. It lays bare the facts. Earlier that morning, anticipating this confrontation, Arthur had performed his own quiet ritual of preparation. He moved through his morning routine with a deliberate slowness, not of frailty or weakness, but of profound focus and careful staging. He found his inner center, drawing deep, measured breaths, allowing the warm, golden morning sun on his face to steady his resolve and clear his mind. He adjusted his posture, feeling the solid, grounding connection of his feet to the earth, a physical anchor to his determination. He practiced his key phrases in a low, even voice, testing their weight and clarity. I'd like to confirm the current ownership structure. Could you please point to the specific clause regarding property disposition in the trust document? His gaze, steady and unflinching, in the antique mirror, met his own reflection, reinforcing the quiet, unyielding strength he held within. He retrieved a simple manila envelope from the polished mahogany desk in his study, an envelope heavy with the promise of official seals and undeniable authority. Inside, meticulously organized and neatly folded, were the original, venerable deed to his home, a parchment testament to centuries of family ownership, alongside a crisp, recently updated copy of his revocable living trust document. This trust, a careful act of foresight, executed just last year, clearly and unequivocally stated his full and exclusive control over the property, its assets, and all related decisions, for as long as he chose to live and manage them. He made sure his phone was fully charged, its lock screen displaying a quick shortcut to the voice recorder app, just in case, a discreet digital witness always at the ready. These were his 3 calm, deliberate steps, his meticulous preparation for one very loud, undeniable result. This ritual, a private moment of calm courage, brought him not just clarity, but immense leverage, replacing the creeping tendrils of panic with a surge of empowered resolve. It was the armor of knowledge, forged in quiet solitude. Back in the living room, the family performance continued, oblivious to the quiet revolution brewing within Arthur. Caroline, emboldened by his silence, pressed on. "So the real estate agent will be here sometime next week for an appraisal, Uncle Arthur. We've already taken the liberty of looking at some truly beautiful facilities for you, with excellent reviews." Her voice was bright, unwavering, almost saccharine, utterly deaf to the storm of righteous defiance brewing beneath Arthur's quiet, composed exterior. Another relative, a distant cousin named Margaret, chimed in, her voice dripping with cloying concern. "It's just so much for you to manage, dear Arthur. We're only thinking of your comfort, your well-being, you know." The condescension was a palpable, suffocating thing, thick in the air, clinging to the heavy velvet curtains and antique furniture. This, Arthur knew, was the insidious, pervasive bias that so often cost the elderly their homes, their independence, their very identities, the arrogant assumption that an older person's competence, their capacity for sound judgment, had an inherent, undeniable expiration date. Arthur waited patiently, allowing their self-assured pronouncements to build to a crescendo, for a natural pause when their unchallenged assertions hung in the air, ripe for disruption. He did not interrupt. He simply shifted his weight, a subtle, almost imperceptible movement that nonetheless drew every eye. He reached, with unhurried grace, for the manila envelope, which he had deliberately placed discreetly beside his worn armchair, within easy reach. The room, which had been buzzing with their confident chatter, went utterly silent, not because he had raised his voice or made a dramatic gesture, but because he had moved with an unexpected, almost unnerving certainty, a quiet power that commanded attention. The envelope, ordinary in itself, felt suddenly heavy with unspoken consequence, a sealed pronouncement of destiny. He opened it slowly, deliberately, the crisp rustle of paper, the only sound in the now hushed room. He didn't raise his voice, didn't argue, didn't plead. He simply pulled out the pristine official document, unfolded it with precise, unhurried movements, and laid it flat on the antique coffee table, its legal gravity immediately palpable. The words, emblazoned in bold, undeniable script, seemed to jump out from the page, clear and absolute. Arthur Elijah Reynolds, sole owner. A gasp, almost inaudible, escaped Carolyn's lips. Then Arthur produced the trust document, placing it directly beside the deed. He began to speak, his voice low and steady, not wavering, imbued with the deep resonance of unwavering conviction. "I truly understand your stated concerns for my well-being," he began, his gaze sweeping across the stunned faces, "and I appreciate, in theory, the thought behind your suggestions. However, as you all know, this house has been in our family for generations, a legacy passed down through hard work and love. And as the current sole trustee and unequivocal owner of record, I have, with considerable foresight and careful legal counsel, made very clear and explicit provisions for its future. These provisions ensure that I maintain full and exclusive control over all decisions regarding my residence and all my personal assets, for as long as I am able and choose to do so." He paused, allowing the weight of his words and the visible evidence on the table to sink in, to permeate the suddenly charged atmosphere. This was the sentence that stopped the table, that shattered their carefully constructed illusion of authority. Caroline's confident, condescending smile faltered, then dissolved completely, replaced by a dawning, horrified realization. Her eyes, which had been darting between family members for silent affirmation and complicity, now fixed, wide and disbelieving, on the official documents spread before them. Her face, previously bright with self-congratulation and the certainty of her presumed victory, began visibly to drain of color, revealing a pale mask of shock. "Uncle Arthur, we just thought," she stammered, her voice thin and uncertain. "I know precisely what you thought," Arthur replied, his voice still even, but now with an undeniable, razor-sharp edge of steel that sliced through the lingering condescension. "You thought my age meant my will was weak, my mind was clouded, my capacity for self-determination diminished. You thought you could, with a facade of care, make decisions for me rather than respectfully with me. You assumed my quiet nature meant I was powerless. But today, the day the deed spoke, you were proven profoundly mistaken." He tapped the undeniable document gently with a resolute finger. "This, dear family, is the indisputable proof that ends the excuses. This is precisely what policy beats ego looks like. This is what legal truth does to unfounded assumptions." A silence descended upon the room, heavy, thick, and deafening. It was not the silence of agreement or understanding, but the raw, crushing silence of exposure, of defeat, of profound embarrassment. It was the agonizing moment they collectively realized their arrogant assumptions were not just morally wrong, but legally irrelevant, utterly powerless against the stone-cold certainty of the law. The visible outcome was immediate and absolute. No more whispered talk of real estate agents. No more slick, prearranged plans for his transition. The key to his front door, catching the afternoon light on his keyring, was still firmly in his hand, a potent, gleaming symbol of his unbroken authority, his reasserted dominion. Arthur continued, maintaining his calm, confident, unyielding demeanor, allowing no room for further debate or misinterpretation. "My wishes regarding this property, and indeed all my personal affairs, are clearly and legally documented here. Let me be unequivocally clear. Any attempt to circumvent these explicit instructions or to pressure me into decisions against my deeply held will would be in direct, flagrant violation of my established legal rights as the owner of record, the sole proprietor. I will not be selling this cherished house, nor will I be moving into any assisted living facility unless it is my explicit, documented, and fully autonomous choice. I trust that this clarifies any misunderstanding that may have previously existed." He glanced around the room, making direct, unwavering eye contact with each person, not with anger or recrimination, but with an unyielding assertion of his absolute rights and his unshakable autonomy. Should there be any further attempts to override my legal autonomy or to interfere with my clearly documented directives, I will be compelled, much to my regret, to involve my attorney to ensure these directives are respected, fully and without exception. The threat was not shouted or blustered. It was stated as a simple, undeniable fact, cold and precise, backed by the full, immutable force of the law. The profound shift in the room was complete, irreversible. The initial indignation and profound sense of betrayal Arthur had felt had given way to a quiet, deep, and utterly satisfying triumph, a vindication decades in the making. The family's earlier arrogance, their casual presumption of power, had crumbled into stunned disbelief, then rapidly dissolved into an embarrassed, resentful retreat. This was the moment of status reversal, definitive and absolute. They had come to strip him of his authority, to divest him of his home, assuming his age rendered him utterly powerless. An easy mark. Instead, he had quietly, competently, and with unassailable legal backing, reasserted it, not just reclaiming his house, but his very personhood. Allies change outcomes. In this crucial case, the law, meticulously documented and held firmly in his hand, was his fiercest, most unyielding ally. Big assets, bigger dignity, his absolute control over his home, was now inextricably linked to the profound respect he commanded, a respect he had just forced them to acknowledge. It is paramount to reiterate that safety is paramount in any situation involving potential elder abuse, coercion, or undue influence. Arthur's calm, documented approach worked brilliantly because he had undeniable proof, the clear legal standing, and the expressed ability to escalate the matter legally, if necessary. Respect your personal limits. Avoid physical confrontation at all costs. Document absolutely everything. Specific dates, precise times, direct quotes, particular statements, and the names of all individuals involved. Keep records of all communications, whether verbal, written, or electronic. If you ever feel at risk, whether physically, emotionally, or financially, prioritize your immediate safety and actively seek help from trusted legal professionals specializing in elder law, adult protective services in your jurisdiction, or local law enforcement agencies. Laws and available resources vary significantly by region, so always adapt your approach and consult local resources and experts to ensure you are acting within the appropriate legal frameworks and accessing the most effective support. This is the enduring power of quiet, meticulous preparation, of documented truth standing firm against loud, baseless assumptions. This is how you reclaim your narrative, how you safeguard your legacy, how you assert your fundamental human rights when they are challenged. This is how dignity, armed with truth, fights back and prevails. What is one concrete action you will take today to secure your position, to stand for your dignity or the dignity of someone you care for? Will you locate and save relevant policy numbers for your building management or company, perhaps filing them digitally and physically? Will you set a quick recording shortcut on your phone, ready for any unexpected conversations? Will you practice one calm, firm phrase that clearly articulates your boundaries or rights? Will you choose one trusted ally, a confidant or a professional, to share your concerns and your plans with, building your support network? Or will you simply start your own 10-minute ritual of quiet preparation, gathering your thoughts and your documentation, just as Arthur did? Let your voice be heard, not in anger or frustration, but in the unwavering certainty of your rights, backed by undeniable facts. Tell me, even if only to yourself, what scenario are you facing, and what is the one decisive action you will take today to stand firmly for dignity and justice? Total character count, 19,957 characters.